The second model I'm going to talk over with you and we will use as a basis for our study in Healthy and Whole is a scale of emotions. Now, this is not new to me, and scientists don't really understand emotions and how they work. We're really only beginning to be able to look inside people's brains and bodies to understand the complex chemical signatures and complex processes that happen in our bodies. But even though we don't know exactly, and this scale is a little bit of a blunt instrument, just looking at it, you will be able to tell from your life what this is about and how this works for you. So broadly speaking, we've grouped emotions and their corresponding thoughts or motivations into three sections. We've got negative emotions, which on my scale are shown as red, and we've got neutral emotions, which are shown as green, and then positive emotions, which are shown as blue. And the point that I want to make, and how I think this is helpful, is that the lower the emotion on the scale, the lower the vibration, the more constricting the emotion is. The higher up the scale we go, the higher the vibration and the more expansive the emotion is. Now, some people are actually clever enough to be able to put numbers by certain emotions based on their vibration. I'm not going to measure any of that, but I do know from the science that I've looked into that in terms of biologically speaking, there is a constricting effect that comes on us when we experience negative emotions. And the more intense the emotion, the more constricting it is. So physically, our form will actually shrink if we feel fear or shame. Our organs will shut down temporarily if we are experiencing stress, low-grade negative emotions. We'll actually stop digesting, our heart rate will speed up, our mouth becomes dry, and we don't swallow as much. All of these are symptoms of the inbuilt sympathetic and parasympathetic systems that help our body to work. But if you think about how emotions affect us, negative emotions constrict and constrain, where in contrast, positive emotions enlarge, enrich and expand us. When you're feeling joy, your head will lift and your chest will expand like that. It's just in our biology. Now, it's really important to know that negative emotions are not wrong, and nor are they unusual. The goal is not to remove all negative emotions from our lives, but the goal is to change how we respond to them, to rather than tighten and resist, to be open to the experiences of life, and particularly to see them as part of the greater whole. I often talk about the idea of prescribing the symptoms, or emotions being like the warning light on the dashboard of our car. If we're experiencing negative emotions, it's often because there is a negative source in our life somewhere. And if we can see those emotions as great information that we can do something with, as ways for us to stop and step aside and pay attention to our bodies, our minds, our hearts, then those things can actually contribute to greater life and greater health for us. It's not that we want to avoid negative emotions. In fact, sometimes we actually might want to focus on them, lean into them, think about them. But they are in service, I believe, to the positive emotions that expand us, that do us good. And so we'll see as we go through the course that when we have really low level constricting negative emotions, we can transform and transmute them into increasingly higher and higher experiences, higher vibration emotions that lead to expansive, helpful, enlarging thoughts that do good for us and the world around us. So there's an opportunity in everything. And most of the time, our job is to be a witness, to notice and to show up for our lives in order that we can engage with what's happening to us, in us and around us. There's a psychologist and neuroscientist called Dr. Caroline Leaf, who has coined this phrase to do with the scale of emotions, the wired for love biology that we all have, which is that time and time again, behavioral scientists and developmental scientists have demonstrated that what we need for optimal health, optimal performance as human beings is a love environment. And that she's looked at the biology and the chemistry and particularly the brain biology of human beings. And she says that we are wired for love. Our very fibers, our fabric, our brain chemistry is wired to receive love and to give love. That is the optimal space for us. And so knowing these two organizing principles, the idea of concentric circles and life being lived from the inside out, and this idea of a scale of emotions and experiences that's leading us up, higher, further in, further up to greater expansiveness and enlargement. Knowing both of these, I'm going to go on in the next section to talk about something I've developed called the greenhouse effect.